Ooh, baby want milky. She got that butterfly tattoo on the bottom of her jeans.
Country boy, shake it for me, boy.
Now, when you say nasty bedroom things with yourself, what do you mean?
I can't get into it.
In this episode, some of our discourse concerns orthodox theology and praxis. While we are continually committed to exploring these topics with discretion and care, it is crucial to emphasize that none of our discussions constitute formal teaching or carry any authoritative weight whatsoever. If you have questions or concerns about any aspect of the Orthodox faith, please talk to your priest. Our podcast serves as a platform for open dialogue and exploration, but personal spiritual discernment and, most of all, guidance from a spiritual father are paramount.
It is later than you think.
So we're live. We can talk about that. And you just want to jump into it? You want to jump right into it?
You want to jump right into it?
No, we should riff for a while.
Jesus, the Pharisees were talking the other day and they had me concerned. They said that you're a false prophet.
Enough, Judas. Enough with the rigmarole. We've already done that gag. We've already done that one too. We are scraping the bottom of the barrel. Yes, I'm Austin Powers. I'm a little teacup.
Dang, we're 4 episodes in. We've already run out of bits.
So, without further ado,
It's
we knew
cursed
this day
world.
we knew this day would come. We knew this
Something
day would
problems?
come, guys.
Is it good? We're good.
Guys,
We're live.
we knew this day would come, and it's finally here. Our final episode. It's been a long day without you, my friend.
Cause you had a bad day.
Your time was held down, and time was over, and you're turning around. Is that a note? Is this a note?
Yes, it's an
I
A
hope you had
sharp.
the time of your life.
Can you, Kevin, could you get on YouTube and play A sharp? That was right. All right, that's enough. Thank you. What'd you watch today? What's the media you consumed the last several weeks?
Today?
Mhm.
Today, I just watched some Jay Dyer talking about espionage and talking about intelligence agencies using religion and religious institutions to influence public perceptions to get behind this or that war effort or to be for or against a certain movement. And
That's
I watched
interesting.
that, and that's pretty much all that I watched today. Was on to and from work. And then I crushed a bunch of beverages, and that's pretty much, that was the main part.
So you watched some Jay Dyer, went to work, crushed some beverages. Now we're here.
Yeah.
Should we just get right into it?
No.
No, me neither.
Yeah, it's not time yet.
What did we used to do? What are our rules?
Oh yeah, let's cover the rules.
Let's cover the rules. Keep it concisity.
Concisity,
Uniquity.
and finish sentences.
Finish all your sentences.
No interrupto, if possible, and then cut the filler words.
Cut the filler words. Keep it unique.
Mm-hmm.
Unique Unork.
Unique Unork. Unique Unork.
Unique Unork. Unique Unork.
What would your Hindu name be if you could choose it? Hajna Raghavni.
Okay, that's pretty good. I was thinking Constantino.
What about Masha Hasha?
Constantino. I'm legally
Mahashnashi.
changing my name to Constantino.
What if you told someone that you were one of the most powerful wizards in all of India, and they're like, "Wow, what's your name?" And then you said, "Mahashni Rafnashni," and then they
It
laughed at
usually
you.
is Rahashni Raf. It's a lot of
Rafshashni.
V's and SH's and K's.
Yeah.
Krishnavi. Rami Ramaswamy.
Rami, Weemy, Weemy.
That's literally what they sit down and say. Rami.
Weemy, Weemy.
This is your yogi name based on a general.
Rainbow Bhakti Joy. It sounds like Bok Choy.
Rainbow Bach around.
Bok around. What if we were on the marketing team for bok choy? We were just trying to pump bok choy.
Yeah, it's almost like got milk.
Yeah.
Big dairy, I guess.
We were in Big
Drink
Bok.
more milk.
Right. But bok choy has its own powerful lobby. Big Bok.
Big Bach.
I bok around.
Or Bach. What's your name on Twitter? Sebastian Bach?
Gohan Sebastian Bach.
Yeah. Gohan. Because it's like Johann.
Yeah, it's like Johann, the famous composer. Politics? Politics is cursed? Well, yes. I mean, spoiler alert, but yeah. But like, what does that mean, man? What is politics?
What even is politics? I mean, you can't really get into politics without getting into... Because what are politics?
Right.
What are politics except for making decisions for how, I guess, to run society, right? That's basically it in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's people, it's governance.
Governments.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I
I'm
said.
following.
There are large institutions that have lots of money and lots of influence.
And they're like, how do we keep this?
And what you do, how you behave, can
Makes
be
that number go up
or down.
or down. There's just numbers on a screen, baby, and they're just looking at that screen all day.
Right.
There's a committee in a dark room, and you can't see any of their faces, but you can see their silhouettes and their outlines. And it's the same way that they do their meetings around a big oval table, and they sit around and they make decisions, and they go, what are we going to make Donald Trump say today?
Yeah. And how are we going to make him say it? We have that video of him crawling around naked with like pigs and other animals and dogs.
Are you thinking of that Black Mirror episode?
No, I was just thinking about
That was
the
a pretty
blackmail
cool
that they
episode.
might have.
All right. Black Mirror, cursed or cool?
It's cool to watch, but it's also just like low vibration sometimes. But it is smart.
Yeah, makes you think, I guess.
It gives them the playbook on like what to do to ruin everything. Now it's out there in the world. So I guess we're going to do those things.
Well, how many millis you got?
8.
Wow. I didn't even know they come in that hard.
You have to get these from Indonesia.
Wow. Yeah, I'm the Zen 3s are too much for me. I was thinking about going over to the freaking Velo too.
I was thinking about switching brands to Velo. Oh, man. All right, shout-outs up front. Fair is fair.
Fair spare.
Fair is fair. Let's see what we got here. Mr. Westford. Mr. West. You're going to have to tell us, man, in the comments. Is it Westford or Westford?
We also have to issue a correction. Very first episode we put out, the very first comment we got, somebody correcting me, talking about Sade this, Sade that. I said something, I can't even remember at this point. I said something along the lines of Sade is like the right way, Sade is like low class or whatever. Turns out, it's not.
It's the English way. I read the comment.
It's the British way, mate.
Yes, I'm properly British.
I'm proper. Now
You've
that's a
offended
proper
me.
cricket ball, mate.
Oh, yes, that's a proper cup of tea.
So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for doing that because you're really keeping us honest.
You can shout out Sade.
Yeah. Sade.
Sade. Is that real?
Sade. Her name is Sade. Normal person would read that as Sade or Sade or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But I asked, I was like, how do you pronounce that? Like, what's the right way? Expecting one of those two. And he said Sade. Or if you're like low class American, Sade. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, look it up. And I looked it up. And there, sure enough, is a video of her talking about her name. And in the video, she's like, yeah, I go by Sade. It's because it's the shortened version of this whole thing. And then she's like, yeah, but some Americans call me Sade.
Some Americans call me Sade.
Low class American, low Sade.
I was born in Nigeria, in somewhere called Ibadan, and my name is my true Nigerian name, or the true Nigerian pronunciation, or as close as I can get to it, is Fola Shade, which means crown in glory, and it was abbreviated. I could have been actually called Fola, which is like a prefix, which is like quite a common prefix, in fact, or I could have been called Sade, and I was called Sade, really. But in England, everybody goes Sade. In America, people tend to go Sade.
Episode 1, man. Fact checking, having the fact
Sucked.
checkers
Episode
out
1
there.
sucked. 2, it was okay. 3, 4,
Boo.
5, 6,
Who's to say?
7, 8.
Yes, eight. 9.
9.
Boo.
10.
Scare.
Oh.
A lot of jump scares in
11.
episode 10.
11. Huh?
Ooh.
Baby want milky.
That's
12.
more jump scares.
Yeah. 13.
Well, we don't have a 13th episode.
Yeah,
We're
true.
superstitious. We go straight
14.
to 14. 14 is a little angel. Episode 15 is your worst frickin' night, man.
Do you ever get caught in algorithm hell where you're getting like the cheapest freaking like made in China ASMR where they're like adding in sound effects or whatever, and it's like somebody picking up some big thing with chopsticks and eating it, and it's like really laying on like over the top
I only
brain
see
dead type content. This type of stuff that 3-year-olds all across the country are like watching all the time.
I only see the really low quality stuff on Facebook for the most part. And I have a feeling that it's that way because the Facebook demographic is more a couple generations older than us. You maybe have someone come to mind, and they are the ones that are like, oh, what's this? Oh, the girl is at the mall, and someone's sneaking up behind her? Well, the guy, see what happens with this. Totally staged, totally cringe.
It's so weird.
Off-putting and weird.
How often do you sit around and think about the fact that there are... Oh, man. Like, you're only on one tiny little square sliver of the internet with most of your attention. And it's like a drop in the freaking ocean, man. It's like a drop in the ocean of, like, there's so much more, like, Bollywood, weird, like, Muslim content and stuff like that.
You say Muslim?
I was trying to sound
I heard Obama say
smart.
Muslim and Pakistan, and I missed that.
And my grandpa was like, Pakistan, you idiot.
Like this guy's never heard of Pakistan before.
Anyway, but there's so much more content out there it's not AI, but it's people like, think of all the little like YouTube kids channels or whatever that are just mindless goopy goppy mush brain, smooth brain type content and has millions of views. And there's kids that are just like watching that all day. But that's just the kids section. Like there's other stuff for adults that's that bad. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's just nuts. It's overwhelming. I don't think we're meant to bear that burden.
No.
Mentally or on our soul, like to understand how the depth of like how freaking weird the world is.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Well,
so should we just get into it, or
we should get into it.
What's wrong? Is something okay?
We just got to keep an eye on filler words. I didn't want to say it because I know you'd be mad at me. Please don't be mad. Please don't be mad.
Oh no. I've done
We'll
it
mute
again.
this part and we'll put jazz music over it.
Maybe I'm depressed. So you want to get right into it?
Yeah.
What do we talk? What is it?
It's Cursed World Problems.
Cursed World Problems.
Cursed World
baby.
Problems, baby.
And what are we talking about today?
Politics, finally.
Finally, I've been waiting for this episode. Honestly, I've been stoked. I've been stoked and stroked thinking about this episode and what we might say. And yeah, you just want to get right into it?
I've been feeling just itchy about it. I've just been itchy to do this.
Don't say itchy.
That's what people say, like when they're just
Yeah, you're right.
They're
I'm
excited
itchy.
to do something. They're just
I'm
itchy to do it.
Scratching to do this.
Yeah, I've just been scratching to get at this thing, and I've just been itchy about it for weeks.
Speaking of scratch, let's please not talk about
The worst thing you can call the
worst
devil,
thing.
Old Scratch. It makes me scared and I shiver.
I've gotten shivers from that several
time I
times,
go-
multiples, a multitude of times.
You know what's maybe more detrimental than compulsively using filler words is me how much I've looked at the camera in the last 5 minutes. I've been on one.
Yeah.
One time I told Colin, since it's just me and you. One time I told Colin, hey, did you know that one of the old ways to talk about the devil is to call him Old Scratch? And Colin didn't sleep for 4 days.
My face got white. My hair turned white. I have had to dye it since then.
He gave up the ghost. He died. He was clinically dead, medically, and then it came back into him, but his hair was all white. So he's been dying.
Just one streak of my hair right up the middle.
And now he sees ghosts everywhere he goes.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. They made a show on the CW about him, but instead of casting like a 28-year-old man, they cast Jennifer Love Hewitt, and she can talk to ghosts. So check it out this fall on the CW.
Is that the one with Wookie Goldberg?
Wookie Goldberg is now one of our new original. That's intellectual property for this show. So if I see anything out there, any little funny animations about Wookie Goldberg, you'll be hearing from our lawyers.
Exactly. So politics. I mean, there's a lot of ways we can go with this. I mean,
first
what's
of
your
all-
first impressions? Politics. Cursed?
Yeah,
Question mark?
100%. I think by nature it is, and I can explain why. But first, suffice it to say, of course it's cursed.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, but not in the way that you might think. You know what I mean? I think that there's simple takes, and I think that there's more complex takes. We're not very smart, so we're probably just going to give you simple takes
You
today.
can say that again.
We're not very smart.
Say it like a villain.
We're not. We're not very smart, mate. Ah, dang it.
Boss. We're not very smart, boss. What do you want we should do? Throw him off the end of the pier. See how he likes it living down there in the land of the fishes, inside the sea. Just swimming around, can't breathe, can't do nothing. I'm bad to the bone. And I'm bad to the bone. He's bad to the bone. We're not that smart, so we don't know a lot about politics, and I don't know who any of the political philosophers were. These kids on Reddit or Twitter.
Everybody's
it's just
talking about
Heidegger,
and Edwin Burke,
Edward.
Nietzsche, C.S. Lewis. The list goes on.
Ronald Reagan, Ronson.
If you ask most over 45ers who their favorite president is, they say Ronald Reagan. A lot of them do.
A lot of them.
Maybe it's higher than that. Over 50ers.
Yeah.
My favorite president was Ronald Reagan. He had some sense. He was a statesman. He had a way with the ladies, right?
And if you ask a 20-year-old in 2024 who their favorite president is, they'll say that's cringe.
That's
and
right.
rightly so. And
That's what I
kind of
say.
that's kind of what I like to say a little bit. You can't just cop out and always say like politics are cringe, it's all fake.
How about we do it like this? When you did you ever care about politics a lot?
You want to hear my trajectory?
Where were you then? Yeah, let's hear your growth, your evolution cycle.
Yeah, maybe we can share our pipelines. So for me, we better put the cringe alert up on the screen because I'm gonna bear it all.
No, you don't have to be ashamed.
Okay. Thanks, man. When I was probably a freshman,
We're all post-libertarian here.
yeah, it's good. So when I was in high school, I think I watched some like Glenn Beck program and O'Reilly Factor on TV, and I might have even bought a Glenn Beck book or two. I thought this guy's so funny and smart and edgy, and he knows why all the libs are so dumb, and he knows the best arguments for how to swat them down. He was like the predecessor to Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
But he was originally on radio, and I didn't care that he was Mormon, and I didn't know what a neocon was, and I didn't know anything about Israel. I didn't know at that point that they're our greatest ally.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that Glenn Beck seemed to make sense, and he had this little edge to him, and he told me who the bad guys were, and that most of all, they were just dunces.
And was he doing? I mean, he did things that are like on. Was the chalkboard a recent thing,
No,
or
it
was
was
it
like-
back then too?
no,
Like
it was
he would
like-
connect dots and make sense of things in
That
a
was
way.
his thing in the middle 2000s, maybe 2006 or something.
But when you're
On
just
for a few
breaking
years.
into, like when you go from, what's on TV? I want to watch TV, right? What's for dinner, Mom? To like looking around at the world around you, and you're like, wait a second, there's this whole game being played that you can get into. That's like good guys versus bad guys, stupid guys versus smart guys, or whatever. Let's find the good ones, right? And being a nice young Christian boy, you're going to be looking for conservatives, and you're going to be looking for who are the voices that are like saying something a little bit edgy or whatever, right? Right.
Right.
And so that's natural and normal. Whenever I didn't really care about politics until I was like 21, maybe. Before then, I scoffed at people who were watching the elections and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, it was like, that's so boring. Oh my gosh, that's so boring. That's so boring.
Yeah.
Next. And I would like show up at people's houses to like hang out, and they would have debates and stuff on, and I'm like rolling my eyes and just trying to play Magic the Gathering or whatever. And then turns out I missed like the fun. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. I think you start there, and then you start caring, and then you start getting into it. You're at like level 1 with like red versus blue, and then whoever you want to pick and like, and whoever's more likable and that sort
Yeah.
of thing.
I remember when I was probably in. When was the Bush versus what's his name?
Kerry.
No, before that it was
Gore?
No, Bob Dole versus Bill Clinton. I think I was shilling for Bob Dole even in kindergarten, whatever year that was, whatever election year that was. I think that we knew who the candidates were going to be. I don't know what year I was in kindergarten. 96. That sounds right because I was born in 91. And I just remember thinking, well, I know that my parents are voting for the Republican guy because they're Republicans. And then fast forward 4 years, me and Brian even had signs for George Bush, and we held them out on the side of the road. Because
Yeah.
that was the right guy for the job. And that was important. But I didn't know anything about that. So
And our parents didn't like coach us.
No,
it's
not
not
at
like
all.
they were like, all right, this is who's good, this is who's bad. It was like you just kind of hung around while they were watching TV, and you made sense of it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's the good
Yeah.
guy because
Yeah.
of whatever the issue was that, you know.
But fast forward, I would watch Glenn Beck and Bill O'Reilly and be like, finally, a news channel where the right guys are saying the right stuff, and no one can stop them, and everyone's so steaming mad because the liberals can't stop us from having popular shows.
Bill O'Reilly was like, no reservations, right?
He was like, welcome to the no spin zone. You're not going to see any spin around here. You are a pinhead. You are a pinhead. You are a patriot, my good man.
Exactly.
And that was what he did. So I was into that. Then I went to college, and for like a brief few months, I took it hook, line, and sinker. Some sociology class taught me how to think like communist, and I kind of like started to believe that stuff because I didn't know about it. I'm very behind at times. For a person with a moderately decent IQ, I'm totally self-aware from the ages of birth to like maybe 26. I didn't know what anything was. I didn't know about taxes. I didn't know you had to register your car per se. I didn't know where you buy shoes. They just always showed up. Someone gave them to me as gifts. Things like that. And so with that, I didn't know that there were these broad ideologies that had historical, just deep roots that go all which ways, and it gets very complex. And all the kids around me, I mean, they knew that stuff. And I thought, where did you learn this? What did you do? Pay attention?
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention.
Well, they're also hoping. I mean, it's like a big net to catch fish in college. You go and you show up, and they're hoping for people who haven't really thought a lot about things, or I guess they're banking on kids who haven't really thought a whole lot and are ready to learn the way that the world is. Because certainly the person who they're not going to lie to you. What are they going to do? Lie to you?
Yeah, they can't.
They're
lie
just standing
legally.
up there. The textbooks don't like. That's what it is. That's what your brain is telling you, and it's not even actively telling you that.
I didn't know it.
It's just the system that you're thinking with, and add on top of that it's like number 111 on your priority list at that point in time. So like, do you have time to be parsing out the truths and the little lies and the whatever whenever you're like thinking about getting some wings?
So where was I? Glenn Beck?
Yeah, you started with Glenn Beck. Then where did you go?
Well, then they talked me into thinking like a communist. Then someone talked me out of that. And then next thing you know, I hear this guy. He talks really fast. And he was explaining how actually facts don't care about your feelings. And I watched a lot of YouTube compilations of him destroying and utterly devastating and violating in a filthy, disgusting way all of the
In a
puny,
naughty way, mate.
he got naughty and violated the puny and incompetent libtards. And his name was Ben Shapiro. And I watched a lot of Ben Shapiro, and then again I thought, wow, finally someone who speaks common sense, and he's making all the right points. And I'm not even going to take any of that back. But
You don't have to.
the devil's in the details. You level up to the best that you can, or you become more yourself and more authentic and less of a product. Hopefully, ideally, you become less of a product of the big political machine. That's where I think that this discussion is going to really get some legs and start running.
So where after Ben Shapiro?
Good question. Gavin McInnes.
Okay.
Because he was more punk, more independent, willing to say things that didn't fit within the confines of the normal political discourse. And he was funny, and he was not ashamed of being a nationalist. So that felt a little more hardcore and a little more room for me to be authentic. And he kind of dumbed it down, too. You don't have to be a political philosopher
Yeah.
to be on board with a lot of Gavin McInnes stuff. And he was like right-wing punk, so...
Yeah. And then what after that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. After that, I decided that it was in my best interest career-wise to pretend. I mean, not to pretend. I decided that actually I don't agree with Gavin McInnes on anything. And the Proud
you're
Boys
right.
thing, I would not be anywhere near a violent extremist group like that. Mm-hmm. So I ditched that. And I became reformed, and now I'm something of a centrist. Mm-hmm. You see, I'm socially liberal, but I'm fiscally conservative.
Yeah. That's about where I am at right now.
Yeah, I'm joking. I'm doing that funny little voice because people love to say that stuff.
Just because, here's the thing. Here's what it boils down to. You're chasing, shall we say, what's the word? You're chasing edginess at first, right? Mm-hmm. At some point in the line, your brain and your system and your paradigm was so clean and soft and squishy and nice, happy, right? And then you're like, I'm turning into a man. I've got all this armpit hair, and you're like, I gotta have some friction. I gotta have some abrasiveness in my life. Mm-hmm. What's the next thing? Oh, this guy seems like he really doesn't take the BS, right? He's a no BS guy. He doesn't tolerate the clowns.
Yeah.
Right? So
Which
then
one's
you're
that?
maybe Bill O'Reilly, I guess. Is he
Yeah,
kind of a
yeah,
hard
yeah.
nose? Like, I'll yell at you. We'll
Finally
do it live,
Finally,
right?
someone who's in charge around here.
Finally, somebody who's
An adult
in
the
charge,
room.
a dotard, if you will.
What is that? Is that a real word?
I think it means. I'm just kidding. It's when you're in your dotage. When you're in your dotage. When you're a dotard, it's your second infancy.
Oh, okay.
It's when you're getting so old that you're in diapers again, and you're
Oh, you know
You're
about stuff like
dotarded.
that. Yeah.
so No, I was just saying that because he's kind of a old. Like even when we were watching him, when you were watching him, he's what 78 or something like that.
He was like
maybe
1,000.
He looked
He was 100 years
700,000
old
grand.
and 1,000 feet tall.
His head was the size
His head
of
was
a
the
planet.
size of a planet, and his arms were as long as Argentina.
Snakes.
As long as anacondas.
his
The legend
toes.
of Bill O'Reilly. His
And
toes were as
Bill
big.
O'Reilly.
What?
The legend of Bill O'Reilly.
Well, let's not talk about that.
All right, his toes were like chiclets,
They were
and his
so
teeth
cute.
were sharp.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Bill O'Reilly was satisfying some need of yours to have like a tough, firm voice, right? Speaking against the evils or whatever, and then you go to Ben Shapiro or whatever, who's obviously, it's like the attractiveness, the appeal is somebody who's waving their hand and waving the smoke away, the smoke and mirrors, and they're turning on the lights and they're shining light on the things. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like, I think what everybody's chasing on the pipeline. And then it just so happens that some people are lucky enough to be exposed and have a palate, the acquired taste for the hardcore stuff right off the bat.
I'm not even saying that
I feel like most people need to stepstone their way to hardcore stuff.
Yeah, of course. But also, it's always going to be subjective, and it's all relative, because there's going to be a lot of people eventually watching this being like, this guy thinks Gavin McInnes is hardcore? That guy's an Israel
Yeah,
shill.
but you didn't even finish your pipeline.
I know.
You're probably not going to.
Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But the point
I'm
that
not finishing mine.
Well, you haven't even
I'm not
started
telling you
yours.
where I am.
You haven't even started yours. But listen, what I believe is very hopeful is that not everyone has to go through this same pipeline. Not even everyone has to go through the same type of pipeline. Because I have great hope that the 15-year-olds of right now
Oh, yeah.
are going to look at the entire old guard and go, oh, I don't have time for that. I was born knowing that people are trying to manipulate me,
That's
use
exactly
me as
right.
a product, as
Yeah.
a vote, as a
just
a
like
little loudspeaker, an amplifier. I don't want to be an amplifier. I don't want to be a number. I don't want to be a voting block. And they're going to just skate around and be like, no thanks.
Well, let me make a very brief point, and I mean very brief. Think about how 3 generations ago, they didn't have an internet. All they had was the TV, was the radio, and was advertisements, and their doctors, right? And they had no way, they had no means of accessing any information other than what was in the newspaper. And anyway, I was talking to a guy not several days ago, and he's like 90 something, and he remembers in 1945 going down to the movie theaters, and you pay a dime to get in, and they had before the whatever the $5 5-minute movie or whatever. Before that, they have a big announcement that Japan has been whatever. And you just get the headline news. Maybe you get the paper boy. Hey, get the paper. Hey, get the paper. This is paper
Wait,
boy.
I like the paperboy joke that you're going in on, but my mind is stuck on the fact, if I interpreted what you said correctly, that a person would go to enjoy a fun, short, little, silly film, but beforehand they would say, for your information, we also just killed like tens of thousands of people in Japan. Now enjoy the film.
Yeah.
And then
Exactly.
some people in black and white just kind of dancing or...
Yeah, so him expressing that to me, I remember when that was the news, and then we would all huddle around the radio to hear the one person. You get however many radio channels, you hear your news person tell you the news, what happened, black and white. This is what happened, and so an entire generation, several generations worth of people grow up, and not just grow up as kids, grow up into the part of their life where their brain is harder and harder and harder to change. They go all the way through that and get all of these calcified contractures of ideas in their head. That's all tangled up, and there's no untangling that, right? It's basically hopeless. And so next generation down, they get a little bit more wiggle room. They're a little bit more free. You got dinks, you got holes, you're slipping around, right?
The reference is going to be incredibly obscure.
It's fine. Yeah, one episode, one time of Get Off My Lawn like 10 years ago or whatever. The next generation down is even more. So you can't help it. We're not blaming people for having a pipeline that started with Glenn Beck and had Ben Shapiro or whatever. Nobody's going to knock you for that.
No, it goes
because
without
we
saying.
grew up with a little bit of internet, but didn't have the conceptual. Only so many people truly grasped that you're in control of your own life and you make decisions and you can find and learn and do this and that. Most people grow up and don't. If they ever wake up to that at all, it's not until their mid-20s or something. So the next generation, like you said, they're skipping so many steps in a good way and probably in a bad way for a lot of them.
Time
or
will
whatever.
tell, because a lot of kids know about stuff, and it kind of makes me shudder and go, "What the heck? What are you going to be like in 10 years?" Like
Yeah.
when your friend's 6-year-old daughter comes up and says something to you about, I don't know, Joe Biden or something, and then says something to you about like, well, have you considered a tax shelter business? You could do like a business, and it would be like a family fund, a philanthropic thing, and then you could house and you could avoid paying about 30% of your taxes on that. And not that this has happened to me, I'm just making this up. And then you go, wait a minute, you're 6 years old. What are you talking about, like taxes and stuff? I didn't know what a tax was till I was like 14.
But that's 1% of 1% of 1% of them. Most of them are very, very knowledgeable, but they're very knowledgeable about rizzing people up.
Yeah, they do know how to raise people up.
So yeah, it's an interesting observation. It's an interesting thing to sit and ponder, but you don't want to sit there too long because it's depressing and scary. We don't know.
Yeah, let's don't do that question.
Let's not. Yeah.
Let's don't do that question. But yeah, let's just bring it back to like the whole idea of politics. What is it? Are we
Politics,
talking
what is
about
it?
government, like governance, and how the world has to be run? A country has to be run. There
Yeah,
have
the world
to be
has
laws.
to be run.
There have to be laws.
There has to be laws.
Yeah, you and I are on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling like we're finally syncing up,
Yep.
and so
Go
there
on.
would have to be an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a
Judicial
Judge
branch.
Judy. Aha. Judicial branch. So the laws have to be enacted and then executed and enforced, and then they have to be determined what they are, not just the laws, but also public works and things like that. And then I was convinced, that was another part of my pump line,
Go ahead.
that we actually don't need any of that stuff. We don't need public works money going to anything. We don't need anything at all. You get some libertarian stuff, and that all made sense because it was so cut and dried.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the spirit behind it is true.
And
that big government ruins things. It's full of corruption, so the smaller the government, the better. Those principles are still true. But people just want to be purists, and they want to be right, and they'll talk all day long about how their ideology and their form of government's correct. Meanwhile, the government, or the actual world that we live in, keeps spiraling out of control. And because they don't want to make any concessions whatsoever, and they don't want to take power for themselves, and ever take a side and say, this is a moral right, this is a moral wrong, we have to defeat evil and stand up for good, they go, who am I to decide
Well,
what's
they don't know
evil
that
and
they're
what's-"
allowed to, and they're again,
Yeah.
it's the nature of the system that we grew up in, I guess, to be you really are surrounded by rules and invisible lines that you can't cross, and you better not be in the hallway past the bell, or else you're going to get detention. And all of these different things, and obviously you have to have, society runs on rules, but you get used to mother hen pecking you all the time about everything, that you kind of self-police, thinking too outside of the box. And that's why there's almost like a forbidden fruit appeal to each successive version or brand of your evolving politics. The next thing is a little bit edgier, and libertarianism is the against the grain. Well, we don't have to. You get to be the voice. You get to be the one on Facebook saying, "You silly people. You think it has to be between Obama and Bush or whatever, and I choose the
McCain.
third, the Green Party or whatever. And I keep saying whatever, but what I mean to say is that everybody's just chasing that thing, that feeling a little bit different from everybody else, right? It's hard to get out of, and everybody, even us,
Yeah, even we.
we still
Three
feel trapped in that in one way, shape, or form. But yeah, the libertarian type mentality is appealing because it's different, and it's like it's idealistic. If only we could.
I think that it's true. A lot of it's true in the world of ideals, but a person
That's just
who
the
can
thing.
explain this better
It's all an
than-
ideal.
A person who can explain this better than either of us. John Doyle goes on some pretty good rants about it. It's kind of his thing. If you watch any John Doyle, young buck who knows how exactly to articulate why the idealistic, well, we can't legislate morality and we don't want to stoop to their level. If we do that, if we regulate this thing, then we'll be just like them. We don't want to be regulating things. That's for big government. You continually have that, and you stand on the. You have those moral victories, and then you have actual losses every year, year after year, decade after decade. That's why being a libertarian doesn't work. Because if it did work, it would be winning.
Fantasy
The fact that it's
victories, cold hard losses in the real world,
not- exactly.
over and over and over and over again.
And so where I ended up, I guess we've been presupposing that the people listening to us, if they were to have a similar pipeline as us, they'd be more or less conservative. There's a whole other story for people that just find themselves agreeing with the more progressive, liberal viewpoints of things. It's also not so cut and dried. What you'd have to be talking about specific issues, because liberal conservative is one way to divide it, and then right and left is one way, Republican, Democrat, that type of thing. But also, maybe those have been packaged and framed in such a way as to already keep our minds in certain boxes.
Yeah.
But
To
the
keep
whole-
things short, I
Yeah.
was just going to say my pipeline is something like I didn't start caring at all until I started with Gavin McInnes and kind of danced around with, mingled with Ben Shapiro type stuff at the same time. Steven Crowder, Gavin McInnes, Ben Shapiro, all in the same kind of in 2017, all saying very similar things, but just different flavors of each, right? They all generally respected each other. They're all Zionists. They're all into the same types of things. You just pick your flavor of the day and listen to all of them and get your news. That's fine. But then it, escalated from there. Gavin McInnes, Nick Fuentes, John Doyle, all of these different ones that you kind of graduate to, and then from glory to glory, and then eventually you get, some people stay at any one of these or never get to any one of them. But I think for me, not like I'm smarter than whatever, or I've evolved past all of these stupid ways of thinking, but I feel like I've come full circle to I started caring and thinking everything mattered, but then I got to a point where I was like, none of it matters. This is all BS. This is all stupid. It's all just pageantry. So blackpilling hard, and then you come back around eventually to there are things that matter, right? Policies affect people, and they do. The politicians can't just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And to some extent, however detailed you want to get with how it works, to some extent, what they want requires public consent.
Yeah, this
right?
is where it gets juicy with it, because this is where we start to get into this
At least here requires public, here and now, in our great
United
democracy,
States.
which I really hope. There's so many threats to our democracy out there, and
blah blah blah, joke, blah 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 blah. So listen, I had to pull this up because I wrote this down earlier. Basically, this explains it. I think only a number of years ago, it was really easy for people to swat down any suggestion that were being manipulated in a very concerted and planned way by powerful institutions inside and adjacent with the United States government and other governments and intelligence agencies and stuff. It's funny that you chose to drink that water up in the mic when I was just getting started on the most important part of this entire series. There's a video that like special operations forces or some such thing in the Army, some division is responsible for pumping out propaganda on purpose to manipulate and control the minds of the enemy.
Is it that video you showed me earlier?
Yeah, Ghosts in the Machine. Look it up.
Ghost in the Shell?
Yes.
Ghost in Michelle?
Ghost, yeah, man. Yes, all those things. It precisely is. Search any of those, you'll find it. That's basically the first that they're admitting and bragging about it. Because I think the critical thing happened where in the last, 15 years, it went from people pointing and laughing and at conspiracy theorists and saying, hey, nice tinfoil hat. You think that that's really likely? To everyone starting to wake up en masse. And then you start to see the government and the military brag about it and say, actually, it is true that we put out messaging and that you don't know where we're at and we're the ghost in the machine. We're behind all the media and the news, and you never know what's the truth and what's a lie. You'll get this impression if you actually watch this video that they put out, very highly produced. It's like they said, well, let's cut our losses and just admit to it, and we'll just make it look really cool so that people are behind us. Thankfully, you read through the comments on the YouTube video, most people respond like a normal, sane human being, and they're like, wow, admitting to it, huh? Is this such a good thing? Can't believe you guys are bragging about this. If they can do it to the enemy, they can do it to us. So that's true.
It's almost like that's what they intended the reaction to be.
Well, probably. You can always second guess. You can always speculate about motivations all the time. You can say, are they doing this because they're dumb? Do they want us to think that they're dumb?
But the one thing that people get trapped in that is not worth getting trapped in is way overanalyzing and assuming that everything is a perfect 4D chess move.
Or 16D chess.
And assuming, it's taking it for granted that you have no power to change anything or to resist or to have an influence on your sphere or a bigger sphere around you, but rather everything, like I said earlier, kind of as a joke, what are we going to, the big round table that all of the dark, shadowy figures are sitting around, what is Donald Trump going to say today, and which news outlets are we going to put it on? All right, you over there, I need you working on the CNN take, and I need you working on the Fox News take, and where he's going to trip down the stairs whenever, you know what I mean? Like, people, there is a lot of people, me included, for a long time, and I still have to fight the urge to think that way, that everything is orchestrated because they're so powerful, right? And that's not there's a secret third option. There's stupid, I believe everything that the news channels say. I just pick my flavor, right? Fox News versus CNN. Then there's everything is controlled. It's all trash. I gotta tie myself up in my room. I gotta tie myself up in my closet.
Why would that be the? Why would that be the first? Yeah. If I
gotta
tie
lock
myself up, if I tie up my hands and feet and put myself in the closet.
I meant lock myself in my house and peek through the blinds. That's what I was trying to get at, and make sure that my phone isn't wiretapped and not say certain things in certain rooms because I'm wondering if somebody's listening. Right?
Yeah.
There's people that get that bad, and somewhere in the middle is these people are real people. They're making their own decisions and they're doing things. They may be bought and paid for by donors and all of this, but
the donors themselves are real people.
And the donors themselves are real
Yeah,
real
there's
people.
an element of it's actually organic. It's
And they're
happening in real
trying.
time.
They're not, it may seem like everything's lockstep perfectly. They say and it happens, but the fact that they're trying to do something means that there's a try involved. Like, they don't know whether it's going to be successful. Especially,
Yeah, that's important.
especially now, and it's interesting because it used to boggle me whenever I was thinking like they have everything under control, and I'm like, but the internet and there's all this information. How do they keep a cap on that? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like it kind of is backfiring.
I think that's, you can definitely tell with stuff like that, because how much did we hear, and you still hear it. We just had this conversation on Sunday with someone, but that like, well, do you ever think the thing that, I don't want to say the word because I don't want to get deplatformed or de-algorithmed, but the thing from a few years ago that we didn't think would ever go away, is that coming back? And it's always like, it's going to, because it's an election year. Everyone's said that so much, or they've said, oh, fake alien invasion, fake alien invasion, fake alien invasion, that I wonder if some of the people that make those recommendations to the powers that be are like, there's so many people saying we're going to do this. Like the cat's out of the bag. They're taking all of our best plans and exposing them, so let's not do it. Maybe it'll cool down.
But notice the way that we're talking about it.
Yeah.
I believe that there are people
of
orchestrating things.
Dude, of course.
It's not nobody, it's somebody, and it's a lot of people. Who are they?
Well,
Justin, tell us. Who are they?
You gotta, who can tell you best? I'm always outsourcing the best takes, but if you listen to Jay Dyer not talk about anything religious, put that aside. No, not about, he talks about religious things, but not in a theological framework. He talks about religion as a tool of the intelligence apparatus, because it has been for centuries. He also talks about entertainment and just entertainment, news media, religion, political institutions. All these things are infiltrated with many tentacles of NGOs and institutes and things like this that hold money and hold power, and they're all connected up through the Rothschilds and whatnot, and you can always track it. It's just people with wealth and with power that goes back generationally, and they have a vested interest in things going a certain way, or for large blocks of people having a certain attitude that goes in their favor. So why wouldn't they use the power? A person who thinks that there aren't secret agendas and secret literal conspiracies occurring all the time that have vast implications is a person who can't get it through their head that if a person has influence and has the tools to affect their will, like, they're going to use it.
So
it's happening always all over the place.
Yeah. So assuming that's the way that we talk about it, because that's the way that it is, it doesn't necessitate that they have all the power and can do whatever they want.
No.
But it is that they do have power, and they are making a lot of things happen that they want, and they're pretty effective at. What's
It reminds me of?
What's the word for this?
Throwing money, wizarding,
No.
spinning things around, turning knobs.
No.
Okay, grabbing your ears, grabbing your nose. Dental floss.
No. Proliferating? No.
Yeah.
No. No.
Promulgating.
No.
You know what it reminds me of before you say that?
Yeah, go ahead.
It reminds me of that Bayside song where he sings, I'm not taller than trees, I'm not
Where
larger
are
than life.
you?
No, it's a different band, man. He says, I'm not taller than trees, I'm not larger than life.
Oh, yeah.
Those
No, I know.
words, that's it. He's just saying, okay, whenever my voice comes through your stereo speakers and it's all polished and everything, and you believe that I have all the answers or that I have some secret esoteric knowledge because I managed to have a popular rock band. And then he admits within the lyrics, I'm just a guy and I have actual struggles and insecurities, and I have to pretend like I don't in order to put on this edgy, overconfident like persona. That's cool and self-aware. You apply that to the actual world of people, every politician can be, really tall and have a tailored suit and come out and be very well versed, but each and every one of them and all the different conglomerations of people with their competing interests, all of them have to eat and sleep and process information in time. They're all subject to their own drives. Probably they're subject to the passions more than the average person because they're unethical, or else they wouldn't be at that place where they've gotten. That's another concept that we should talk about. Is
Extrapolate.
Let me extrapolate that. Essentially, if you cheat, then you have an advantage. If you cheat at Monopoly, if you just take money out of the bank and then you flick people's pieces across the room when they're not looking, you have an advantage. Also, doing that is unethical. So the people who are unwilling to cheat and steal money out of the Monopoly bank or flick your pieces across the room when you're not looking, they're more prone to losing. the ones who are willing to do that, are
losing in the
losing the game of Monopoly. Like, stay within the metaphor. So in real life, the people who want to become successful politicians and run for office and win, the ones who are willing to take the unfair advantage by acting unethically, are all going to disproportionately rise to the top. So why would we be surprised that all the people in the highest positions of power are the ones who are the most dirty and the least ethical?
and the instinct during a Monopoly game for somebody to look at that and be like, well, he cheated. He didn't actually win because the rules say this or whatever, so he didn't actually win. That's for a game. But in real life, actually winning is actually getting the power, having
is your
money,
name-
and having influence. And so there's no... The types of people who would say that he didn't actually win because he cheated are the same types of people to be too idealistic and be like, well, we can't wield the sword of power against them because then we'd be just like them.
Meanwhile, they've got the sword of power and they're cutting your children's heads off, and you're going, well...
If we did the same thing, if we fought back as hard, then we're no better than them.
Yeah.
It's the same instinct involved there, which again the metaphor breaks apart because in a game it's real. Like there is winning and losing, and cheaters never win and winners never cheat because the cosmic laws dictate that if you cheated, you didn't actually play the game,
and eventually
you
they're
didn't
gonna
actually do
lose.
the game the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so eternally it goes without saying that most of these politicians are going to be judged and they're going to be
Exactly.
found
So
wanting.
it doesn't break apart. It doesn't break apart.
Well, the system, the math still works out. The algebra does. In the end, it all works out that they get their just desserts.
The point is in the big scale in politics and all of that, they cheat, they win, but it has real life consequences for them and everybody around them and everybody in the country.
That's not even the point I was making. I agree
That's the point I'm
1,000%
making.
with what you're saying. My thing is just to get people to realize when they go, well, I really like that Mitt Romney character. I love his smile and he just seems honest. Well, don't trust that instinct, because if they're running for president and they got the primary, they got the ticket, you are talking about invariably, people aren't going to like this because they're going to look and they go, what about Ronald Reagan? What about Donald Trump? Like, I don't care. I'm under no obligation to believe that any of the people who have achieved so much without getting shot beforehand, that they aren't compromised, that they haven't been on Epstein Island, that they haven't, accepted money in advance or promises in advance to do such and such a thing for Israel or for General Electric or for whatever lobby. That's just how it works. So I don't care. And I think this is what we're really getting at. I don't know how long we've been recording for, but the bottom line for me, I'm not trying to wrap it up prematurely, so let me just skip. Spoiler alert. The bottom line for me is you don't have to actually believe in the professional wrestling that's happening right in front of your face. Maybe I said this on another episode and I'm just repeating myself. But if it's all theater, you can enjoy it and you can have a laugh and be like, Trump, Trump, Trump. But if you're doing that as if you're at the WWE pay-per-view and you're having fun with your kids and you're like, they're having a time, and you cheer along, fine, hey, knock yourself out. But if you start to believe that The Undertaker really just showed up and then CM Punk is looking and he's like, oh no, I don't know who's relevant nowadays in wrestling, so don't crucify me.
Sheamus,
over
I
this.
think.
Sheamus is so big right now. Sheamus is so hot right now. If you start to watch and you actually go, no, it can't be. Dolph Ziggler, he turned heel. Then shame on you, because that's what they count on. They need you to panic over Joe Biden or to panic over Donald Trump.
Black pill.
Or to be blackpilled and be like, oh no, now I can't affect any change whatsoever. There is a third way. And it's to take your eyes off of the voting booth. Look, if you have time and nothing else, like if there's not any good TV shows on, or you don't want to sleep in, or go play a game of basketball or something, go vote. I don't care. If there are cool things and fun things to do, I would advise well, never mind. I'll just do my thing and you guys do yours. But voting, very shocking thing to say. It's not the biggest impact that you can have on the world, but they use it to pigeonhole your political and social influence. If you think that the most important thing you can do is share this or that video on Facebook that's showing how dumb the Republicans are or how dumb the Democrats are, and then once a year, go and do your little vote. If they can limit it to that, then they, the powers that be, have won. If you are saying, hey, let's figure out everyone within the county that wants to learn how to raise chickens and to collect rainwater and stuff so that they can get off the grid and not be beholden to the grocery stores and all that, that's when they start to get scared. Because the people that pay the politicians are the people that raise the chickens and stick them with hormones. They stick them with stim packs from Fallout and then put them in the grocery stores. Just to make it a really simple example. But take chickens and fill in the blank with 10,000 other things, competing interests, people trying to make money, trying to get influence, trying to have a stranglehold
Choke
on
the
your
chicken,
life.
as it were.
Yeah, exactly.
And so,
Very poetic of you.
it does matter, and we do happen to live in a democracy, our great democracy. And on the low level, it's kind of, I don't even want to say it because it seems too obvious, but it seems too much of a whatever type of answer. But at the big scale, presidential or whatever, it's are you going to really make a difference? Who knows? But in your county, whenever there is legislation going up and two people, and one of them is saying that they're going to make it illegal for people with lower than 5 acres, less than 5 acres of land to their name to have chickens, that's insane.
Yeah.
But that's a real thing, and that's happening all over the place.
Yeah.
So show up at your county town hall during certain specific events or whatever to take part. Sure, that's a local thing, and you're being a part of your community.
And then if it doesn't go your way, raise the chickens and break the law.
And that's where politics really, really, really matter. And if everybody paid attention to that, it would trickle up. I think it would have that.
Can I
sort
say
of
one
an
more thing
effect.
about what
But
I
that's
just
just
said?
me, a slow boy take. It's
Yeah.
just me assuming that's how it would work because I'm an optimist. I'm an optometrist.
Sorry for interrupting you a second ago. I just wanted to make it really clear. When I was saying about break the law a minute ago, I was wigging. I take it back. That was stupid. And I
so-
was kidding.
We live in a democracy, and we're spreading democracy. That's what the last 5 or 6 wars have been about, making sure that the rest of the world can be democracies.
Yeah.
And
The monocracy.
so, what other alternative is there? Is democracy cursed?
I think democracy's cursed because it allows those bad people doing those bad things to shift the responsibility back on the people. Well, you voted for this.
You voted
This
for
is you. It's the ultimate gaslighting, turning the mirror back on the public and being like, well, look around. All this beautiful
But if we
pastoral
just-
landscape has been taken over by, a total wasteland, and everyone's switching dinks and doinks and turning into like little,
Speaking of Dink and Doink, they're doing pretty good this year in the
they're
WWE.
doing good too. Well, my point is, you see all this.
My doink is
You see this hellscape that's just unfolding, and it's funny because they're like, well, who do you think did this? This is you, man. You should have voted.
Who did this?
You should have voted differently, or you should have voted harder, or you should have told your friends to vote, or you should have picked the other guy.
But why can't we just get together, band together, and vote the bad guys out?
Because it's not that we can't theoretically, if there was enough votes, and I guess the right people counting the votes, but they make sure in advance. They don't let a person get to the finish line. They don't let a person get up there on the ballot unless they're already spoken for.
Maybe, but let's be charitable and say
Okay,
that good guys
like,
are in politics.
All
because
but
there's
one
plenty
of the presidents
in the
being
lower
in
politics.
the same
Sure.
bloodline, that's a thing.
Sure, but let's be charitable and say that there's good guys up at the top.
No.
Let's do that for a second
No.
and also grant that the system works and is airtight and that there's no way to falsify things and that your vote counts.
And then we'll do my hypothetical afterwards.
Right? Let's take those two things and say that that's how it is. Because what are we going to do? Sit here and prove to Dad or prove to anybody? Not that he's like, we've had many, many discussions about that type of thing, but take whoever the character is, somebody who's like, who wants to trust in the
Cut to
system.
the chase.
Who wants to trust in the system? What are you going to do? Sit and prove to them that it doesn't work, or sit and prove to them that every single every single politician is whatever?
I can prove to them
that.
I can prove to them that Andrew Breitbart said, "You think you can bully me and tell me and tell me how our politics need to be? No, never again." And he looks in the camera and says, "F you," and then he goes, "War," and then a little bit later they shot him with a heart attack gun, and he died at like 40. Or 45. Right. Okay, that's all I'm saying. We can go back to your hypothetical fairy tale world.
Gesticulating at that point. So let's, again, just for the sake of discussion, grant those things.
All right, they're granted.
There's good people and bad people.
I grant them.
You can, theoretically, the system works, so if you have enough people to vote for the good guy, you're good. So all you need to do is try to band together and promote whatever. The problem is still that, oh, wait. They can hijack the masses with everything that they have, with TV and Snapchat and Facebook and Tyler Childers showing up to tell you
what abortion is cool.
No, but it just nicked me off whenever there was like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different other black people that died after George Floyd, and every single one of them was in the news just to really like knock it out of the park for everyone. And then one of which was some dude who grabbed a knife out of his car and had a knife and was like had it right there and then got shot and died. Cool. We all saw the video, and then Tyler Childers gets on to like really and be all emotional and country, and he's from West Virginia, and he says something like, just imagine if the cops came and you were in your boat and you with your child in the back seat of the boat and you're fishing and you reach into your tackle box to get a knife out to cut the line that's stuck in the whatever, and you get shot to death. It was something so retarded, something so
contrived,
unbelievable,
yeah.
and yet so many people are like diehard Tyler Childers, and they're like, he really is just an honest one. He's one of us.
So they played the Childers card,
and so
it worked.
They played the Childers card
well.
For hundreds of thousands of people who are suggestible enough to be swayed by something like that and feel morally superior. Can
I do my best Tyler Childers impression?
Yeah, go ahead.
She got that butterfly tattoo on the bottom of her jeans. She can play that guitar like
boy, shake it for me, boy. Shake it for me, boy. Shake it for me.
Kick the dust up.
Load the truck up, hit the dirt road.
That's a different guy, right?
Yeah.
No, it's the same guy.
No, it's Jason Aldean.
Yeah.
Load the truck up.
Is that the same guy?
Load the truck up, hit the dirt road. Come on, boys, don't you come on down to the barn and shake what your daddy gave you.
Shake what your daddy gave you, and come on down, boat.
Come on, girl, got a catfish dinner. Stick it in the truck and pick it on
dinner. What was I thinking? I know what I was doing.
Oh, but what was I thinking?
Different guy. He's good. He's Dierks Bentley.
He is Dierks.
But yeah, Tyler Childers probably swayed so many people to be thinking even harder and be like, you know what? Before I was like, turn a blind eye to something because I'm not black. I don't freaking care, right? Mm-hmm. But now that he brought it into my Whiteville, and now that it makes sense because I like fishing, and what if my daughter saw me, she's in the back of the boat, and I got shot because I pulled out a wee little pocket knife. Now I get it, and I feel for them.
Isn't that a worse way to frame it, though? For him to say, well, what if they were white? That's like a South Park episode. Because if it's unjust and it's a cop killing someone who it was just in cold blood, everybody, look, I'm just going to call it 99% of us are like, that's, if they get the facts right and they're not already manipulated ahead of time, they go,
again, let's grant that. Let's grant that.
Kill them, fry the cops. That's the way it should be. That's the way it is.
Yeah, but then
for somebody
to conversations with people who will insist that they know many, many racists who are real racists, and because their skin is darker and nothing else, no other reason at all, we want them to die. And he knows people, lots of people like that, and you're naive if you think that there aren't lots of racists out there. And I'm like, okay, dude, I guess. I've never met a single one who's not just who's not just like playfully racist in the funny way, you know?
For the record, I have a very nice job, and I don't think there is a funny way to be racist.
There's no
I
funny
think
way
always
to
to
be
be
racist.
racist is really bad. That's where I've refused. I won't tell jokes about that.
Me neither. And it was a joke.
That's where I draw the
I
line.
was telling a joke when I said funny way to be
Right, you were
racist.
joking about it.
Joke. It was a joke. And so let's go ahead and democracy. My grand point is that even if everything worked well and there were good times and great oldies, even if there were good guys at the top and you could vote the bad guy out or whatever,
So no bad guys could come into that town?
so no bad guys could come into that town. They still have the power of our vices, our passions, degeneracy, sowing seeds of degeneracy everywhere, rap videos. Who makes most of those? What color are they?
Probably not black people, right?
Nope.
Nope. White people.
Did you see that one Ben Shapiro
Wealthy.
rap video? Nuke Iran. Nuke
Iran.
Iran.
Nuke
Saying, using old jokes because we like them.
We did nuke Iran.
We did
in the
Nuke
other
Iran and it
episode.
already aired.
Yeah, we
Anyway,
already aired that one.
We already aired
Okay.
that one. That's all right. Maybe they'll laugh again.
Yeah.
And point is, democracy's cursed because they will always have the power to just kind of subvert culture.
Yeah.
Right? What are we going to do? Burn the books again? I don't think so.
What?
What are you talking about?
I don't know the joke. I don't know any history. Those who
Neither
don't
do
read
I.
history books are doomed to repeat it. Well,
So, what is a better alternative? Is there any alternative? Is democracy
Yeah.
the way the world has always worked?
no. Well, I guess it was invented like in Greece or something a zillion years ago, but was a different form than what we have today. This representative democracy where everyone has an equal say in everything. That I don't think is godly and good and the order, because it's cursed world problems. So we talk about the way that the world is cursed through the sin of Adam, and what maybe we can do to realign it with what is true and good, and how to enact that change. And I believe that it's just abundantly clear that order and hierarchies and such are good, because even before
And are inevitable.
they're inevitable,
There's
but
no
also
getting out. There's no getting away from that.
it's not just a byproduct. It's not a bug. It's a feature, because before the creation of the physical world, there's a pretty good indication that God had legions of angels with hierarchies. He likes to delegate things out. That's how God is. He could do everything on his own and have no communion with anyone else. And instead he says, no, I want those whom I have created to be lower beings, to serve with one another and to serve one another and to work together and to obey up the ranks and to respect up the ranks. And that's a perfect world.
It's kind of like us. We like to delegate. And so, speaking of delegating, we would like to make lots of you guys our special princes. And one way to do that is to subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, if you subscribe and then you tell us in the comment section, you say subscribed, we will try to send you. And then if you DM us your actual address or an address that you have access to,
We're going
we
to
can
send you
sen-
t-shirts, free t-shirts.
Okay, you're over-promising.
We got lots of free t-shirts that we could send them.
Oh, that's true. Okay, so we'll say the first as many t-shirts as we have, and you're not necessarily going to get the size that you want. All right, Steenie? Steenie thinks that he's going to get that extra large because he knows that it has a little bit of extra room, but it's not too big.
Yeah.
But it's also not just a regular size, because then it'll shrink. I've heard this from you, Steenie. You want the extra large? If we have it, we'll send it to you.
If we have it, we'll send it
But
to
you
you.
might get the quadruple XL.
But we just
make
wanted
wings out
to remind you.
Yeah.
Subscribe, like the channel. It helps us out so much. It helps us so much.
Colin's having trouble. Can I give it a go? Guys, please just subscribe to the channel. Hold on. Can we do
We'll do that one again.
Yeah, we'll do
you
a
wanna
cowboy.
try one?
We'll do a cowboy country artist who's like,
Oh, and we'll do it
All right,
together.
guys.
All right, guys.
listen, cut the
Cut
crap.
the crap.
America needs you right now. Come to the Dierks Bentley Sweepstakes scratch-off ticket concert this October.
Come
You
on,
could win
baby,
a-
let me light that dinner. Put the jeans on and come
Big
into the
man
center.
dinner.
Going down to the hole in the wall. Gonna shake, 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 shake.
Shake, shake. You started shaking in a way that I can't even do on camera here. But
That one's a good one. So, speaking of Steenie,
did you get a super chat?
yeah, we just actually got one. Speaking of, he says,
I don't believe you.
he say to me, democracy sounds cursed, but what else do we have? Good question, Steenie. Thank you again for the $100.
I think Steenie asked the question in the super chat because you tried to ask it like 2 or 3 times.
What?
And I just ignored it. So then
What's that?
Kevin messaged Steenie to say, ask the question.
So-
So fine, I give up.
What else was there? Because we were just discussing this a little while ago or earlier today. There's democracy, and then there's like, what else?
Kings and stuff.
Kings and stuff, monarchy,
Yeah,
right?
special princes.
And so here's where I land. I don't know much about nothing. I don't know nothing about anything, but I do know that what could be better. I think probably the best you can get in the fallen world is a good king, a good father, a good papa, right? Mm-hmm. And
Papa
so he'll
Shisha.
delegate. He'll make rules. He'll make good good and evil, and define that for the rest of everything under him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And enforce it. And so a good king is the best you can get on this side of eternity, as they say. I think so. So, is there any hope for that?
I don't
or where
know.
have we seen that before? Because
Well,
you
we're
can think
talking-
of like Byzantium. You could think of like King David of ancient Israel. Were those like the best we've ever had as a human race?
I don't know. I'm going to be totally honest, and it's not going to be very like satisfying answer, but it comes with a promise and a commitment for me to actually try to get a little disciplined with my studies. Because I don't know if it's just we have democracy that leads us to this very flamboyant and unnatural clown world that just keeps spiraling into this circus of just like extremely in-your-face mad scientist horror world theme park, the worst things you can imagine playing out before us in the social realms and in everywhere. And that's what you get with just democracy, where we think we're in control, but we're actually having the strings pulled by the NGOs who have a vested interest in destabilizing populations or lessening the population in terms of numbers or executing some agenda that brings us toward like an antichrist society. All those things can come from the democracy that we're used to, sure. And then there's, we got one good king and he says what things are, and then he delegates to people below him to like make judgments. But my admission is, I don't know. There probably are other forms of government that are viable, where there is like a parliament or a senate of some sort, but there also is a ruler where the buck stops. I don't know. I don't know all the different forms of government. And maybe there's a cool one. But I would say I lean more to the side of the spectrum of you just put somebody in charge who has a sovereignty as an individual and a royalty and the responsibility of it. Because I always thought when I was a kid, that kings, they just enjoy, like they get to eat larger size candy bars,
Big steaks.
right? Larger size beds, things like that. It's more than that. They have to sit there and pull their hair out and say, how am I going to do this so that the land doesn't go up in flames and that they don't end up on my doorstep with the pitchforks to drag me out of this place and kill me. They still were at the behest of the will of the people, even if it was like king and then lords and their workers and peasants and people that work their land.
Sure, but is there not something to be said about, again, we're just in idealism, where is it possible? Sure. Is it plausible?
Plausible for what? To have a king?
To have like a perfect combo deal of the church and the king. They
I don't
talk
know.
about two swords and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
There would have to be a revolution against I think that the espionage world, the intelligence world, and all the far-reaching, everything would have to lose funding. All of the super ultra compartmentalized programs that are funded through like the defense, the whole defense sector and stuff. Those people are some of the ones doing wily things with no oversight whatsoever or no accountability, and they affect evil change in the United States the same way certain state actors that aren't front facing. I don't know how to put this. I'm not as eloquent as like a Jay Dyer type who's been reading all the books about this stuff, but I've learned enough to know that all those things are so far reaching, and all the many complexities and all the zillions of little tentacles wrapped around each other and going all around the world. You can't really just turn the power off on all that in any way that I can conceive of, but for a great reset or for all their funding to go away. I don't know.
Well,
So without that, I don't think you can reset and be like, okay, now you have a pure, and you, let me start over. Regardless, you are not going to have an incorruptible body of anything with any style of government, even if it is the true church, even if it's the Orthodox Church, it still lends itself because of its institutional structure.
the reason why that can't ever work out perfectly is because you still have that anthropic part of the theanthropic church, right?
I see what you
And
mean.
so Christ being divine and human, the church is his body and his bride, who is one flesh with him.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the divine side and the human side. There's still corruptibility, and
Yeah.
still all of that kind of thing going on. But just to wrap things up, bring it down to our level, practical. What can we do? What do we do if politics is cursed? Where do we give up? Do we throw up our hands? No. We act in our spheres as we want to be as influential as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a man. I'm a little king. I'm a little king
Of this castle.
of this castle, and I should treat it like that. And I've got a domain over which I have dominion, and I should be enforcing and being a little king there. And then also, guess what? I've got neighbors who are kings of their little domains, and we've got a county, and we're all together, and there might be battles and things like that. So you can act out and live out this monarchical lifestyle in the microcosm of your life. And I think that again, to say the same thing again, I think that generally works its way up from the bottom.
Yeah, I think I got my takes. I got two main takes. One, politics is cursed, but it's only by nature. Politics only exists because of people, and all of us do have the curse. We all have the curse, and the systems are made up of people. So the institutions themselves or hierarchies, no, they are of God. But the people that make them up, the people that fill in the slots in their hierarchies, all of us are subject to corruption. Now that is why politics ends up being cursed. And then, like I said earlier, the phenomenon of the cream rising to the top, the bad guys rising to the positions of most influence, that's just a mathematical reality because it just makes sense. But take number two is where it's all important. Just like they want us to focus on what's going on the national stage or around the world or on Entertainment Network or at the Met Gala or all these things that are outside of us and higher than us and far, far away, they want us focused on that so that we don't enact change in our lives. And that reminds me, just this past week, Father told me when I asked, well, what should I think whenever I see corruption in high places? Or what should I think when I see things moving in this direction? Should I not think about those things? And he said, well, you're trying to fight a battle that's so far away from you. What you need to be focused on is fighting your passions. And that's all he needed to say. And, it's not a cop-out answer like, don't worry about that. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. Because we all want to look at the man behind the curtain. It's very sensational. That's the conspiracy theorist spirit is like, finally, we nailed them. We got to figure out who the bad guys are. And it's well-intentioned, and I still think that fight has to happen. But if you think that your life's work should be fighting the bad guys out there, then the bad guys have, ironically, you have inadvertently let them win, because their main goal is to keep you from realizing that you're still a lazy, lustful, greedy, unself-controlled little consumer in the market that they can manipulate. They can flip your switch, turn you on, off. They can take huge herds of you and move you around and control your behaviors. So if they can keep you angry at them, even if you identify the right bad guys, when you're filled with ire and hatred and rage, they still are pulling your strings. Now what really, when you turn around and you go, oh no, the bad guy's here close at hand, the little worm tongue is the one that's telling me it's okay. Don't, just a little bit, just lulling you into this drugged up state where you're letting
singing
your life,
into you,
right?
enchanting you,
like worm tongue, trying to get you to go do nasty bedroom things with yourself or to play video games for 12
now, when you
hours
say
straight.
nasty bedroom things with yourself, what do you mean?
I can't get into it. I've already
I
said
just
too
don't
much.
understand what you're saying. You have to break it down for me.
Like eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in bed, and you can
Oh,
get it
okay.
all over the pillows and stuff, and it's
Yeah,
disgusting.
no, that makes sense.
But I didn't want to gross you out.
Thank you, because
Think about like peanut butter on your pillowcase. Woo.
yeah.
Yeah. So what is it? Is it cursed world? Is it cursed world's problems? It is.
I think it's cursed world. I think it's been a cursed world tonight.
Yeah.
Wow, I am so sorry you guys had to sit through that.
Apologizing at the end.
Go and take a break.
Look,
You do not want to listen to our next episode. I promise you that.
no, but episode 11 though.
No, it's good. All right, that's
We
a
got
wrap.
there. Yeah. Like and subscribe to there's a link in the subscription down below. Press this button over here.